Hey guys, so AEW has been, getting, some positive feedback, not just with now going to more smaller venues that they can actually, have a decent crowd in, but they've been getting feedback for some segments on Dynamite and to an extent Collision that actually are worth, talking about and tuning in for. People like for this past Wednesday, people like the idea that, we had the opening segment with Omega, Ospreay, and the Don Callis family, and the story there between Omega and Ospreay, as to who is the very best, because they're leading towards that, possibly by Revolution at the soonest, if not Double or Nothing, at the exact moment, or All In at the very latest, and that's about it. The question is, though, with a positive like that, and then you got the Hurt Syndicate, formerly the Hurt Business in WWE, being one of the better things on television, to where they're kind of like the cool heels, like they'll high five you and be very face-like, but they'll also be very heelish in their mannerisms. Like they're gonna basically they're standing by what they say. It's like, look, you may not like our tactics, but we're not trying to make it personal. It's just business. It's just Hurt business, if you know what I mean, or Hurt Syndicate-ness, whatever. And the cool factor is what's making making Collision, making Dynamite worth watching, and that's good. That's great and everything. You have potential with things here and there, like, for, believe it or not, the whole Tony Storm amnesia thing. We know that might be revealed as a hoax, either by Grand Slam Australia, or even by tomorrow's face-to-face on Collision, when her and Mariah May come face-to-face. Because I can see Mariah May, being who she is, basically looking at Tony and saying, hey, enough of this foolishness, I know what you're doing, and if you just want a rematch, darling, all you have to do is just ask for it. And that's it. Because basically, if she wants to come out as a heel and pretty much reveal that she could see through it, that's good storytelling, because Tony could play it off like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't get what you're talking about and such. So it's the little things like that. It's the little things like that, that people enjoy from AEW. But unfortunately, those little things are outdone by the negative. And there's a lot of negative in the ring and behind the scenes. I mean, we talked about the whole Britt Baker situation, and how all parties are at fault for that, and basically that this, we could be, seeing Britt Baker iced, if you will, as some people put it, for the duration of her contract. We're hearing reports that Deonna Purrazzo has gone to management out of frustration because she wants more TV time. She wants to be utilized better. So you're hearing all these reports, and it's like, these are easy fixes. These are easy fixes to go from negatives to positives, but we're not seeing it. We are not seeing it whatsoever. And then you're getting things like the whole Jeff Jarrett situation. The whole Jeff Jarrett, wanting to be the world champion one more time in 2025, despite reports coming out that apparently, according to sources in AEW that spoke with the likes of Fightful and such, there's no plans whatsoever to put the belt on Jeff. And people are wondering, well, if that's the case, why are you wasting so much precious TV time that could go to other talent on this narrative if you're not going to follow through with the intended goal of making Jeff champion, even for a brief transitional moment? What's the point? What's the point? And what's the point of wasting someone like MJF's momentum and persona and in his total packageness, if you will? What's the point of wasting him on this as well? It's like, it doesn't make sense. And what's the point of putting Claudio into a match, which, after what we saw this past Wednesday on Dynamite, we all know he's probably going to lose, against Jeff. It's like, what's the point if you're going to go through all this, use MJF, use 1/5 of the Death Riders, and so on, just to push a narrative you don't intend to follow through on. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't like really, it doesn't really fit, the narrative of finishing a story. And the only reason he's done it, and that's ambulances, we have some ambulances going off, something's going on in town here. But, the only reason people point out that this is happening is because of what's going on with WWE and John Cena. John Cena announced last year that this would be his final year. This would be it. No going back afterwards. And a lot of people say that that's the only reason we're seeing this with Jeff Jarrett, because Tony Khan doesn't want to be outdone by WWE and John Cena. But that doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense. I mean, look, last year when Sting did his retirement, he let it be known that Revolution 2024 was going to be it. And they did a decent job, respectfully, of building up to that moment, which is why a lot of people enjoyed that moment. Which is why the Greensboro Coliseum was sold out. But the thing is, this is totally different. Jeff Jarrett, with all due respect, and I like the guy. I'm actually one of those rare people that's a fan of Jeff Jarrett, but also understands why people aren't. The thing is, Jeff Jarrett is no Sting. He's no John Cena. So nobody's going to take what he narratively wants to do seriously. Nobody's going to take it seriously. People, and especially when they find out that, hey, this is all for naught. It's like, what's the point? There is no point, So why waste time? Why waste, the time of MJF? Why waste the time of 1/5 of the Death Riders in Claudio to make this narrative, a bit more of a reality when yourself, Tony Khan, that you have no intention of crowning the guy champion. I mean, if you're going to go through with this, as crazy as this sounds, you need to go all the way. Even if it's for a brief transitional period, go all the way. And that's it. Just get it done with, But if his intention is not to crown him champion, then what's the point? What is he going to do? What is he going to do as a constellation? Oh, Jeff, I put you in this narrative where I made it seem like you were going to become champion of AEW, but that didn't happen. But I'll give you a constellation. I'll let you be the Ring of Honor champion. Is that going to be the constellation? He takes the belt from Jericho. It's like no, that's not the answer either. If that's what's going to happen, that's not the answer either. And then on top of that, speaking of Jericho, you have him in this learning tree situation, where basically pretty much any fans could see it as the learning tree being, the equivalent of Chris Jericho going through a midlife crisis. Basically, trying to wonder whether or not he still belongs. He still fits in to the narrative of professional wrestling with any company, and that's what this is about. And that the only reason you got people like Brian Keith and Big Bill, Big Cass, if you will, formerly in WWE, at his side, is because they got nothing else to do. And if they were to reject it, guess what happens? Big Cass and Big Bill, well, they might as well be sitting at home or sitting in catering, waiting for the call to be utilized. That's why they're going with it, because they know if we don't go along with it, we're going to be sitting in the back doing nothing, or be sitting at home doing nothing. And I'm sure you can, I don't even have to watch Dynamite or Collision. I can look at the highlights, and I can tell you honestly, that basically what you're getting here expressionally with those two is they don't want to be there. You could see it. They'd rather be anywhere else, but give them credit. They are being the good soldiers and trying to make it work. And then another group, the Death Riders, which people look at as basically being NWO, but they're not, or trying to be NWO-like, but they're not. And it's like, you're trying to figure out, okay, what is the reasoning for the Death Riders? It's like when they started, it's like they gave, a good, I guess you could say, a good message, if you will, as to what their motives were, as to why they came together as a group. But now it's like, okay, what happened? Like, what happened to that plot point? What happened with, trying to come up with a savior for All Elite Wrestling to beat, Jon Moxley for the title? It's like, okay, it's like, what happened? I mean, Darby Allin, you're gonna let him go and train to climb Mount Everest during a time when you're pretty much pushing him to be the guy that saves the day? And now because of that, you're gonna have to pivot to basically taking one of the other best aspects of your show, the unhinged Hangman Adam Page, and making him back into a face? It's like, what is going on here? It's like, what is going on here? I'll tell you what's going on. Tony Khan is doing whatever he can in his mind to try to make AEW interesting. He's trying to dig back as a fan historically into what he feels helped make a company cool. For example, he's looking at the Death Riders, and everybody pretty much is saying they're like the NWO. Twice in 2024, he's tried to come up with an NWO-like storyline. Didn't catch on with the Elite Hostile Takeover, and it's not catching on with the Death Riders. So he's not doing his job, creatively and bookingly by trying to rehash old story ideas or old storyline concepts and everything, but with a different twist and everything, because people can see through it. They can see through it. They can, see the outcome and everything, and it doesn't make sense. It's because it's like you're having Jon Moxley come out and say he wants AEW to go back to what it was. It's like, okay, what do you mean by that? Like, go back to being the true alternative it was? What do you mean by, what do you mean by that? Like, how do you, it's like, where do you want it to go to get back to what it was? Do you want it to, go back to where basically, it basically what it, are you trying to say, I'm trying to find the right word to say here, guys. Are you trying to say that you wanted to go back to when, it was at its hottest back in 2019, between 2019 and 2021? Is that what you're saying? Because if that's the case, that's going to be hard to do, seeing as though there are certain talents there that help make it get to that point that are no longer there. So it's like, what are you alluding to? Nobody really knows. And if there is any intention of bringing in an outside source that is behind all this, like a Shane McMahon, people might say it's too late to do it now, but if that's the case, I look at it this way. You have Revolution, which would fit into what's going on with this storyline. You have Revolution, and you have Double or Nothing. But mostly Revolution to at least finally get some momentum behind the storyline by revealing maybe an outside source like a Shane McMahon being behind this. But, until then, it's like, this is nothing more than a pathetic excuse to try to rehash the NWO storyline for the second time within not even a year. And you know when it's going to be a year when he first attempted it? A year will be this spring, I think March or April, when they first attempted it. I think it was April, yeah, the first time they attempted it. It'll be a year then. When they tried to do it with the Elite. But it's like it failed once, nobody bought into it, and you pretty much killed it, let's be honest, when you show that backstage CM Punk footage from All In London the year prior. So it's like, what sense does any of this make? What sense does any of this make, trying to rehash something that's not going to work, or that people can pretty much see what the end goal is? It doesn't make any sense. And then you got situations like Deonna Purrazzo. I think I mentioned this earlier, or I mentioned it in the previous attempt at this recording. Deonna Purrazzo saying she is clamoring for TV time to be utilized. She is upset. She's gone to management to get opportunities and everything. You have the situation that I talked about and everybody else has talked about with Britt Baker. And it's like Tony Khan and his crew need to get their priorities straight. They need to get them straight, because if they don't, it's like JD said during his review for Collision. If they don't get their priorities straight by the summer, by All In Texas, when they're at Global Life Field for All In, in Arlington, if they don't get the priorities straight by then AEW is going to pretty much be, 2 feet in the grave, but not laid down, but not laid to rest yet. They'll be like 2 feet in, and then that's it. They're not going to be laid down just yet, because they'll still be fighting. They'll still be scrapping to stay alive. And you can have the WBD come out and tell sources of, oh, Dynamite's in the top 5, is one of the top shows, I should say, one of the top shows seen streaming wise on Max, and that's great. But what top area? Like what, like what section of the top are you talking about? You talking top 5? You talking top 10? Top 15? Top 25? Top 100? What are you talking about? You need to give a specific number. Is it number 1? Is it number 2? Is it number 5? Is it number 15? Because when you word it like that, it's like, yeah, it sounds good, on paper to say, hey, it's one of the top shows watched, but where is it ranked as a top show? That's what people want to know. And then speaking of Max, and speaking of, TNT, TBS, and all them, we have Grand Slam Australia. Now, they do have some bright spots, as I've mentioned earlier. Kenny Omega, Will Ospreay, the Hurt Syndicate, this whole amnesia thing with Tony Storm, which could get pretty much spoiled, storyline-wise by Mariah tomorrow during the confrontation, or even just revealed, during the match itself. And again, that Tony Storm doing this storyline, I think is great. I think it's really great. It's fun. But the thing is, though, despite it, the Hurt Syndicate, and the Kenny Omega Will Ospreay thing, everything else that I've mentioned and others have mentioned is dragging AEW down. And it's not just on screen either. It's also behind the scenes. I mean, Grand Slam Australia, when it first got announced, was originally meant to be at Suncorp Stadium in Brisbane. But then, because they couldn't sell much tickets, it got moved to an entertainment center, or basically a venue, an indoor venue. And yeah, they're selling decent tickets there, but what do you really have for the what do you really have for the card? Outside of Mariah May, Tony Storm for the AEW World Championship, and a tag match with Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay against against Takeshita and Kyle Fletcher, the Don Callis family. What do you have outside of that? And potentially maybe a world title match involving Jon Moxley against either against Jeff Jarrett or Jay White or whoever. What do you have outside of that? Nothing really. I mean, what, are you going to add Mercedes and Harley Cameron to the mix? Okay, fine. But we all know Mercedes is going over, even if it's in Cameron's backyard, her country. What I'm getting at is, and even Harley Cameron getting TV time, people like that. That's another positive, but still, it's like, out of all those positives, the negatives weigh them down mostly. The negatives outshine them, unfortunately. And again, it's like Tony Khan just doesn't know how to manage correctly, book correctly, or write correctly, when it comes to, his shows and his talent and everything. I mean, I guarantee you, there's more than just what we know name-wise of talent that is iced right now that are not going to be utilized for the rest of the duration of the contracts, guaranteed. And yet he just doesn't understand that if you don't want these people to, give AEW a bad name, well, they're waiting out their contracts and they're working the independents, or when they go to WWE and they take a crack shot at you, then maybe you need to use them to the best of your abilities, or at least while you have them. But he's not doing that. He's not doing that. I mean, Malachi Black is already gone. Pretty much he's already gone. And guess what? His destination that people say he's going to go to, which is WWE, his destination, they already have things planned out for him. Yeah, they have things planned out for him already, because they had a segment on Raw where Dominic Mysterio gave Chad Gable a phone number to get in contact with somebody that can help, Chad with his luchador problem. And it said and what Chad said as he was leaving is he's going to learn the dark arts and, of lucha libre. And it's like, wait a minute, dark arts? There's only one person we know of that's about dark arts. That's Malachi Black, Aleister Black. So already WWE is preparing for his return by incorporating him into a storyline already. And it's like when you see that should be a wake-up call to Tony Khan that this is how you do things. You have storylines, you have creative storylines and stuff booked up and ready for anybody that's on that roster that you need to utilize and you need to inject into your show. But he's not doing that. And again, to get back to Grand Slam Australia, like I said, on screen it all looks like, a mishmash of whatever, that's basically detracting the fans. But now you also have the scheduling conflict with Grand Slam Australia. Because when they first announced Grand Slam Australia, everybody thought it's going to be a pay-per-view, but it's not. It's going to be a simulcast on TNT and Max. But here's the issue. When they first announced that a couple weeks ago, they said it was going to be at 7/8 Central. Guess what time? Oh, guess what else is on at that time on that very same day? The NBA All-Star Weekend. And reports have come out and have been confirmed that if you were going to have Turner Sports, WBD choose between the two of them, they're going to choose the NBA over AEW. That's what they're going to do. They're going to choose the NBA All-Star Weekend over AEW. And even people like Alex Hicks, just Alex, has said that they will get, in his opinion, will get crushed because of that. And so what do? Instead of kind of rescheduling the time and everything so that we can see it on the simulcast, what do they do instead? They just said, watch it on TNT/Max, and that's it. And it's like, okay, but now what time do you want us to watch it? And there are reports going around that TNT and Max are going to show it, rumor-wise, around 2:30 in the morning. 2:30 in the morning. And that's either 2:30 in the morning Saturday morning or 2:30 in the morning Sunday morning. That's when they plan to show it. Or there's, I guess, rumors and speculations that they might show it after the All-Star game. And it's like, are you serious? Are you serious? So you have to fix the whole schedule conflict, take the time that you advertised originally out and put, just watch it on TNT and Max without a time, set. And now you have speculation and rumors that basically people are going to probably be watching it, if they want to watch it live as it happens, they're going to have to watch it at 2:30 in the morning? Or they're going to have to watch it at 2:30 in the morning, Sunday morning or Saturday morning? It's like, what is going on here? And what really is disappointing is it's going to be a tape delay of 21 hours. Basically ensuring that for anybody that's there in Australia attending, spoilers will get out. And because of that, a lot of people feel that it's almost certain that there ain't no way, period, that new champions will be crowned, because a lot of people look at it like it's a glorified house show. A glorified house show that's just taking place on an international market. Heck, even some people thought at first that maybe it's not going to get shown here it's not going to get shown here in the States or internationally. It's just going to be an Australian-centric show only, live and on air. But it's going to get shown, but we just don't know what time. And this is another situation with Tony. Tony pretty much thought, because Tony thinks so highly of himself, right? This is what people criticize him for. He thinks so highly of himself that he believed that, the WBD, Turner Sports, would choose AEW over the NBA. Tony, you need to wake up and realize that was never going to happen. Never going to happen, period. And, now we just got to wait till hopefully tomorrow night to get a decent idea, of the airtime as to when Max and TNT are going to show All In Grand Slam Australia. Now, some have said that probably the best solution is for the live feed to get shown on Max and then the replay to get shown on TNT. Now, I think that would be good. I think that would be a best solution. Show the live feed. This is what you got streaming for. Show the live feed, you know, on Max, whatever time you have to show it in the morning. I think they're going to have to go like what WWE did with Elimination Chamber. They're going to have to go like 10 a.m., 11 in the morning, you know, our time, you know, Pacifically. You know, go with that and then show the replay later on, you know, show the replay later on TNT after the All-Star game, or at least the first All-Star game weekend, you know, side of events. And that's it. That's it. But they're not doing that. As far as we know right now, they're not doing that. Hopefully they go there. Hopefully they attempt that, because I think that would be the best solution, in my opinion. But yeah, AEW is just going downhill. I mean, this is what it looks like. This is what's going on. This is visually. AEW is going downhill with a few ups, but mostly, and then that's what it is. That's what they're doing. And Tony Khan doesn't see it. He doesn't realize it. And he's not going to realize it till it's too late. And you know what's crazy? You know what's crazy? Now you have Dave Meltzer, and his reputation has been shot. Let's be honest, with all due respect to the guy, his reputation as a viable source has been shot. Now he's coming out and saying, because there's a report going around that WWE is going to help TNA garner all the sports channels or all the networks that AEW was on, you know, or was on internationally, but is going to be losing soon. Rumors and reports are that WWE is going to, part of this partnership, they're going to help TNA get onto those networks, you know, to make sure that AEW doesn't, you know, secure getting back on them, or AEW doesn't, you know, try to attempt to get on them, period. And, you know, some people might say, well, that's kind of a foul move, or foul move, I should say, foul move. And it might be, but that's business. If you're going to be in any kind of sporting business, you know, especially combat business, then you got to realize that if you got competition all around, the competition is going to do whatever it takes to outdo you, period. And there's a report of that going on, or potentially going to be happening. And because of this, now you have Meltzer, and again, his credibility has been shot pretty much to heck as of last year and going into this year. You have Meltzer saying on the Wrestling Observer that, you know, TNA attempted to sell to Tony Khan in 2018. Really? Because I don't remember reading any news information or outlets talking about that. So I don't think there's any truth to that, period. But yet that's what he's saying. They were attempting to sell to Tony Khan in 2018. Okay. You know, if I don't know if there's ever been reports about that in the past, because I haven't seen any. You know, you can archive it, but I don't think we've seen any. And honestly, a lot of people will hear that, and already you got people criticizing Meltzer for you know, lying about that report, and that basically, you know, he's only saying it because, you know, of the report of WWE partnering with TNA and probably helping them get into these television markets internationally that AEW would either, you know, have a hand in getting into themselves, or used to be in and try to stay in, you know, and so forth. You know, and I don't blame people for believing that, or for believing that Dave's only saying that because of that kind of a situation. But yeah, AEW is not looking, but overall AEW is definitely not looking so good. And you know, we could joke at the fact that they're still the #2 promotion, you know, outside of WWE, and technically they are. But if you were to look at from a presentation, you know, from a presentation, storyline, booking perspective outside of WWE, TNA is right there behind them, and AEW is a very far third. Let's be honest. TNA may not have all the flashy, you know, lights and everything that WWE and AEW have, but from a booking creative standpoint, they are leaps ahead, if you will. They are leap years ahead, unfortunately, of AEW, and a lot of people will admit that. They may not be #2 as far as like, you know, big, you know, as far as like production and everything and notoriety, but and network wise, but they are number 2 in the eyes of people when it comes to booking wrestling correctly, stories and all that. But yeah, AEW, if 2025 is going to be the year of AEW's return to prominence, if it's going to be AEW's, if AEW is going to be the Phoenix Rising in 2025, if 2025 is going to be, the year of the Phoenix Rising for them, then they got to get their act together. Tony's got to get his act together, because if everything keeps up the way they are right now, if the Death Rider storyline keeps going up to All In Texas, if we don't get something taken care of with the Learning Tree and everything else that's mentioned, then pretty much AEW is good. Like I said, they're gonna have 2 feet in the grave by the time we get to All In Texas, but not laid down to rest yet. So they gotta watch it. And WBD could say that they're one of the top shows watched on streaming. That's great, but where are they ranked at? In that manner, are they ranked at number 5, number 15, number 10, number 100, number 50, number 25? Where are they ranked? That's what people want to know. Because if you're not telling them numbers, then they know you're hiding something. And that if you're hiding something, that means you're ashamed of what AEW has become just as much as the fans are. But guys, let me know what your thoughts are. Comment down below, like the video, ring the bell for notifications, subscribe to the channel. Check me out at my Teespring store for merchandise you can't get anywhere else. Also check me out at odyssey.com at BWRoses, rumble.com at BWRoses, VENMO.com at BWRoses. Check me out at all my favorite, at all of your favorite, also my favorite, but still your favorite as well, audio and podcast affiliates like iHeartRadio, Radio Public, iTunes, Pandora, Audible, Spotify. If it has a podcast, then more than likely you will find me on there. Also, check me out at twitter.com at BWRoses and at Blue Sky at BWRoses as well. And guys, let me know what your thoughts are on all this. Do you agree with what I had to say? And until next time, I am out.